Hello and welcome to another Mobilitics video. I'm your host Virkayu, and in this one we are looking at the best solo carry champions for patch 12.7. And if you're looking for the best way to build these champions and to of course monitor the data as the patch goes on, the Mobilitics companion app will have everything you need and will be linked below. Right, let's start off with the island known as Top Lane. Now, Gangplank is the king of said island because he didn't need buffs, but he got buffs, and all the pro players are complaining why did he get buffs, and all the solo queue top laners are going, oh no, he got buffed. And then Gangplank offers to give everyone orange slices. Now, the thing about champions like this is obviously they have scaling damage, they have burst, they have crit, they have burn, huge AoE damage with barrels, and of course that global ultimate, and there's nothing like picking up free stuff across the map while the rest of the team is struggling to match your macro presence because you pressed a button. The problem is that passive getting buffed by a substantial amount up to a max of 310 damage at level 18 where it was 225, and that W mana cost going from 80 to 120 to 60 to 100, meaning it's never been better to be a Gangplank in the top lane in terms of your safety and in terms of navigating your scaling with ease. And when I say with ease, I mean because you're obviously good at the champion. He has a high skill ceiling, his champion limits are basically endless, they carry potential 1v5, 1v9, allows them to turn unwinnable fights into winnable fights. But again, you need to put in the time. It might look like the champion is OP and Giga easy until you play it and you realize you're more the guy on the pirate ship that cleans up the mess, not the captain. Next up, we have Aatrox, the king of turning fights because of his sustain and itemized healing. Obviously, you think the guy is dead, you think you're burning him down, and then he will defy the odds in a 1v2, 1v3 scenario, and if he has a lead, well, that can be a little bit more ominous. Using his darkened interior, he is a monster in a side lane, and of course the master of flanking into teamfights using the backline, or simply just yeeting in from the front. He can do really whatever he wants. He can bring multiple enemies to him when he is in that side lane though, and he will kill many of them before he gets taken down. You know, if that even happens. So if you have an Aatrox on your team speaking in his funny accent and he's in a side lane smacking towers, smacking enemies, do something about it. Play off of that pressure to get win conditions satisfied through barons and towers while your Aatrox does his thing. If he gets fed, there's very little you can do to stop him, and genuinely will 1v5 if he's strong enough and knows what he's doing, and of course hitting all three of his Qs plus that W as often as possible. And as I said, from split pushing to flanking to cleaning up team fights if the time is right, without armor penetration and anti-heal, you just cannot kill him, which is what we want. It's also what Riven wants, but she's perpetually OP and basically unkillable with the fighter item changes, so we're just not going to talk about her. We're going to talk about Yone, because he is one of those champions, if you know what I mean. Everyone hates playing against him. He can sometimes be very weak and you're like, wait, I'm gonna beat him. He's behind, this is free. But he has so many tools to basically across map you. I mean, everyone else has to use TP, and instead he just E's from top lane to bottom lane and you die, and then he just eats back. That's basically the range, right? He just has so many tools that can keep him alive and make him hard to predict that he often just dominates by himself, which is of course what the point of this list is. He received buff this patch to his ultimate cooldown. I don't know why, apparently he needed it. I don't think he needed it, I don't think anyone thinks he needed it, much like Gangplank, but he has it. This means he has tons of mobility, damage, sustain, shields, crowd control, percentage damage, and if a player knows what they're doing, there's basically nothing you can do to not outplay the enemy team. A versatile playstyle, he can side lane, split push, team fight, flank, clean up, you name it, he can do it because his brother has the key, but he's the door. Let's swap on over to jungle, my role, that's what I make content for, and the monkey has returned. Return to monkey. Recently received buffs to his jungle clear as well as his clone, those AP ratios going up, up, up. And if that isn't your slice of banana, now he can jump over walls with that W, which means his ganking is unpredictable, he has way more survivability and better scaling on certain niches. Basically anything that gives him AP ratios, but he also has way more sustained damage with that Q cooldown buff as well as the bonus damage to monsters on the Nimbus Strike E. Now, in some circles he was considered strong, but he really wasn't. I mean, if you were playing Wukong jungle, you were actually just trolling. The champion was useless and he was underplayed, but he was still underrated if you can follow my meaning. He brings high damage, burst mobility, AoE damage, and multiple CC knockups. But now he can do enough to PvP very well and clear decently fast so that he can match up to meta champions at least in a way that keeps him viable. Very hard to deal with when he's ahead due to the nature of his kit. Go ahead, enjoy your team fighting, enjoy your dueling, enjoy your flanking, and enjoying being monkey. Obviously, we have to talk about Rengar, one of my original mains. I love this champion, and his kit has been a tad bit strong since the rework. A bit too much damage, but honestly, the issue with the new kind of changes here is that they increased his clearing speed. I don't think we really needed that. The reduction of damage onto towers was great because we were just absolutely feasting. And I literally made a video on my main channel the other day talking about the importance of hitting towers, and Rengar was just one-shotting them. They lowered the skill floor, they kept the skill ceiling. If you get fed on this champion, you will easily 1v5 as long as the enemy competition isn't too Lulu. The threat of your ult and basically obliterating anyone who splits past vision line is basically what keeps everyone PTSD about him. Now, regular Rengar play and regular jungle play, that fuses very nicely, but what people don't do a lot in the jungle is lane bushes and lane gangs, and Rengar is the absolute mighty king of this. And if things are going wrong for you, well, you have a self-healing cleanse which helps you escape every single bad situation, and when you use it correctly, you can decide if you want to go full assassin, fighter, tank, AP. You can build many ways on him, and it still will allow you to do damage, tank bad situations, and carry games. Next up is Rek'Sai. Yes, arguably one of the strongest early game junglers so far this season and of all time. Boasted a very impressive win rate despite not being spoken about much, but if you look at high elo replays, you see Rek'Sai. Definitely needs to kick off early, otherwise you become useless. Your game win condition is on a timer, so every time you get a kill, a good gank, you start stomping, you extend that timer, allowing you to basically play a bit more methodically to close out your games. There is a bit of a bug going on at the moment, but ignoring that, with your unpredictable gank paths, your insane power spike upon completion of Prowler's Claw, it feels like it was just absolutely made for her. It says him in the scripts, she's a she. Assassination potential with the ultimate and diving the backline as a long-range gap closer, disrupting teamfights and executing them, means you can bypass the front line and get straight to the backline. It also means if you need to peel someone else, say like a Rengar, you can do so as well using your W knockup. Let's trope on over to the mid lane where we have Katarina spinning and dancing, the ultimate roaming snowball mid lane pick, and has been since, well, forever. Tons of early game damage that translates in Katarina walking all over the game, especially if she has that Magi stacked. Absolute crazy AoE bursts and teamfight damage with that ultimate, and consistently mobile. And of course the resets in fights basically gives you Viego flashes, but it's on Katarina, the original reset queen. Though I'm sure Viego would like to fight for that title. If she has a bad lane, she just needs to walk around the map and gank everyone and repeat instead. This is the classic way mid lane has been played for a very long time. It is simply just a geographical point of view. You're close to the ports, you're close to the landlocked countries, you just have access to everything you want, much like Ahri. She has been really insane since her mini rework, and despite some nerfs, still one of the most dominant and popular champions in the mid lane. Her ultimate resets, again these resets, make her impossible to shut down and allow her to fight for what seems like forever. Again, same thing. Catch and pick potential with a Chum is amazing if you're a jungler or anyone who doesn't have CC and just wants to play off of it. That means if you are fed and you hit a Chum, they die, but if your team are fed and you hit a Chum, they die. Frequently, if someone important is about to get hit by a Chum, usually they will flash, which means the next time, again, they will die. No bad matchups, really good against most types of champions, and only really struggles against those who can put her super far behind early or scale up past her. And either way, you can still beat them by playing the lane like an intelligent human being and playing the map like an intelligent human being. You might think, hey, wait a second, isn't Diana one of the best jungle meta picks? Yes, but she also has a crazy mid lane win rate and has done for the last few patches. She builds a bit more traditional AP rather than attack speed in the mid lane using her Protobot and Zhonya's Rush. Obviously, we do that in the jungle as well. It allows you to burst down enemies very often and be more aggressive with your engage plus ultimate. She outtrades the majority of champions, which again is the issue in the jungle, and has disgusting kill potential at level 6. And then you can snowball the matchup very quickly and very little risk of being outplayed because of your survivability. Due to her QR combo plus the nature of her ultimate and her W shield plus Zhonya's and Rocket Belt, you can outplay a lot of 1v2 situations as well. Using this power curve to roam like the Loch Ness Monster, great ganks and great wave clear so you can easily push and prevent losing much experience, a tower smacker and destroyer, scales well, has a very versatile mid to late game, teamfight supreme especially if you have a Yasuo on your team, and obviously dueling and side laning is what you're good at as well. Right, let's jump on down to the bottom lane and start with a melee person, Yasuo, because his brother's on the list, we have to be on the list as well. And despite what you may think, he's not a marksman, but he has great counter to a lot of projectile-based marksmen. Has crazy synergies with certain amounts of supports, especially those with knockups, although I shouldn't have to say that at this point. He also does very well with anyone who has sustain that can get him through those range matchups that are not very good, where he's getting bullied early game. However, he has a very high kill threat throughout the laning phase, and especially so at level 6 when he's paired with things like a Nautilus, for example. His ultimate, which has just been buffed as well on a lower cooldown, again, I don't know why, can make him very hard to gank, very hard to deal with his limitless mobility throughout minion waves, and 2v3ing is something he's very good at with a good ultimate, so junglers beware and play it intelligently. Don't worry though, we still have Vayne. Some would say she's the best AD carry in the game, although I still recommend a lot of you just play Jinx and win. The thing is, there's been a lot of nerfs to her other AD rivals. Immortal Shield Bow and her Rageblade Spike is beyond ridiculous and turns her into a DPS machine who shreds any HP stacking tanks and violators. Self-peel with Condemn, ultimate repositioning with her stealth and tumbles. This allows her to be wherever she wants to be and kiting away from champions who can actually deal with her. Someone who plays Volibear, I usually cry quite a lot. But beyond that, she can eliminate all types of enemies with her Silver Bolts, 2 to 3 shot squishies, and is a tower destroyer as well. Hey look, it's Samira, yay! One of the best snowballing AD carries in the game. Amazing synergy with champions like Nautilus and Renata. Shield Bow, Samira, 200 years. Oh yeah, she has a wind wall as well, that's great of course. can be impossible to take down when she's fed due to this, as well as her healing, her ultimate, and her mobility. Her AoE teamfighting and 1v5 potential in that sense if she doesn't get CC'd, stunned, and dealt with, can just give her free pentakills. You're noticing a lot of pentakill ability in this video. That's because when you can deal with things yourself, deal with comps yourself, and have self-peeling like with Samira and Vayne and so on, your ability to carry the game is in your control and it's on you to execute it properly. It puts all the carry potential on you. Right, let's take a leisurely stroll across the bottom lane to the support that just engaged and died, but this time it's Pyke, which means he didn't die. He got an all-in potential and kill threat with his QE level 2 power spike, and you're the ADC going, nice. Umbral Glaive just got buffed pretty hard, and this item was made for Pyke. It was made for things like Senna. Now you take your roaming potential, which is just absolutely unnaturally disgusting, and your high mobility with your W and stealth, and you can now go gank other lanes, deny vision for junglers to track, and if you get remotely fed, one hook equals a dead squishy, one ultimate reset equals a one team fight. This is the Smurf carry support at the current moment. Use it well, use the Umbral Glaive to its best ability to deny vision for the enemy team, and enjoy free roams, free kills, and free LP. Senna though is incredibly good as well. Umbral Glaive, again, I already mentioned that, great on her, great poke, damage, and sustain in lane with the Q, and now that slows of course, and then you would follow that up with a lot of auto attacks. Oh no, we're being ganked by someone, let's just get in my E and run away. And if you have a Rengar on your team, then, you know, that's comedy, right? Incredible scaling with extra range and damage, making her the main carry in the majority of games which do go late. So if your ADC's a potato, your jungler's a lizard, your mid lane doesn't know how to add 1 and 2 together, you can simply try and hold on as long as you can and you will be the carry. She works well in all sorts of lanes and with all sorts of pairings and matchups, from AD carries to mages to tanks to bruisers, you name it, it will work with Senna as long as they farm and she scales up anyway. Global presence with your ultimate with shields and damage, what more do you want? And finally, we have to talk about Blitzcrank, because one hook will win you the game. You can miss 20, but if you hit one on a prior target, you win the game. However, I would actually urge you to simply just become good at Blitzcrank so you can hit more than one hook and have an amazing lane threat with that Q. And obviously now you can destroy most lanes with consistent use of this ability, and now you can snowball extremely quickly. You have your silence, you have your shield, you have your knockup, brilliant roaming and ganking when you create this prior, brilliant snowball potential when you destroy the enemy bot lane. And now you will be outscaled to a certain degree, yes, you're not going to essentially have that kind of late game potential as a Pyke and a Senna would, but if you can get a big enough lead it usually doesn't matter. But even if you are behind, again, one hook on a good target, have good vision control, take over the game in terms of that component, and make everyone afraid of what wall they might be walking close to. Well, there you have it, the best solo carry champions in 12.7 for every single role. I've been your host Virkayu. Please do download the Mobilytics companion app. Obviously, it has everything you need going forward in terms of data, tips, builds, items, combos. Like, share, and comment if you enjoyed and learned something. And if you want to learn more about how to play Rengar and use these tips and tricks to carry the game, click the box in the top right.